Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some I Don't Work Here Lady stories, and our first story of the day is by ProfileElectronic. Restaurant team can't figure out their billing software. I set it up for them and print my own bill. Background story. This happened nearly a decade ago. I was working at a startup e-commerce venture. We were a small team and it was my job to put in the processes and train the staff. Every month, I would work on one department and document the IT, reporting, and other processes they need to follow, train them, and identify the person who could lead the team. It was my practice to invite the most promising employees and take them out for either drinks or a meal and get to know them better before coming to a decision. There were several restaurants and bars near our office, one of which I never patronized as it was too upscale. One day, I noticed that one of the girls I was keen to promote as a team lead for the customer support team was about to have a meltdown at work. I quickly pulled her off the floor immediately and took her to this upscale place, both to let her feel that she was valued as well as get a bit of privacy so I could understand all her issues. The incident. We had what could be called a high tea and were ready to leave when one of the servers requested if we could wait for a few minutes before they bring the bill to us. I had a meeting with one of the directors, so I left my company card with this girl, asked her to settle the bill, and rejoin her team after clearing the bill. My meeting went on for half an hour, and when I went to get my card back, the girl had not returned to work. I feared that she might have tried to run away with the card or something, so I quickly rushed to the restaurant, only to find her still waiting for the mysterious bill. I lost my cool and threatened the manager that they could not keep a patron waiting, and I was going to call the cops on them for not letting the girl leave while not presenting the bill at the same time. Till this time, the staff was trying to avoid presenting the bill. Now they admitted the software that they ran had been upgraded that day, and none of them could make it work. They were waiting for someone from the IT team to come and update them. In the meantime, they didn't think of putting the closed sign on because no customers came in at that time of the day. It was amusing to say the least, and I didn't want the poor staff to pay out of their pockets for our meal. I don't know what came over me, and I asked them to show me the system. I was used to setting up systems and in short order figured out what they were messing up and took the notepad the servers used to take orders and wrote step-by-step instructions for them and printed the bill for my own meal. Then I taught them to link the card machine to their system, printed my own bill, and swiped my card. By this time, the news that I was setting up the billing system for the restaurant had spread like wildfire in our office. As I had asked my colleague to go back to her station, and she couldn't keep this juicy tale to herself. The fallout. When I was done, I saw the director of my company waiting for me. He was negotiating with the restaurant chain for hiring out my services to them. I was only thankful no one got fired in this whole fiasco. That's kind of funny to think about. I kind of want to get your guys' opinions on this. If somebody is on company time and they do IT work and they were out at this restaurant doing IT work getting their billing system set up for them, do you think OP's company deserves to get some kind of payment because they were kind of hiring OP's IT services? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by MrsGenevieve. How many ways do I have to explain that I don't work here? Last year, I went to Sephora to get some makeup since I'm required to wear it at work. Well, I just got off and went there so I can go home and sleep, so I'm in my work dress, blazer, scarf, heels hosiery with a name tag and ID hanging from my neck. My uniform colors are navy, blue, and green. Most reasonable persons would know I'm a flight attendant, but something about this place makes me a magnet for their customers. I'm shopping and someone asks me where such and such foundation is, and I say I'm sorry, I don't work here. She scoffs and then says what good am I then and badmouths me to her friend saying that I'm no good. I then reply to her and say that it's pretty obvious that I don't work here. Therefore, I don't know where it is, and unless the store is flying at 36,000 feet, I can't help you. She walks off and starts witching to a store associate asking for a manager, then witches to her while pointing to me standing in line to check out that I won't help her. The manager says that she doesn't work here. I told her I said that twice, but she still doesn't believe me. The manager offers to help her, but Karen just wanted to witch about me. Finally, I stood next to the manager and pointed out the differences. Her dress is black and red, her name tag is completely different, I'm wearing a scarf and no other employee does, my 4 IDs, lanyard, name tag all have my company name on it. I finally told the manager, good luck, I'm going home to sleep. I'd like to say that it's a one-time occasion, but I've lost count at how many times it's happened. But those people were polite and had a laugh. Honestly, if it's a pretty casual person and they're not thinking too hard, if they see somebody in a flight attendant uniform with ID cards and badges and stuff on, it's not unreasonable for them to see that and think, oh, maybe they work here or something like that, and that it's just kind of a unique outfit, like maybe you're an associate or a manager or something like that. That said, it's all about the behavior and the demeanor of the people when it's explained that you don't work there. I don't think it's a big deal at all or even a nuisance if people confuse you even on a regular basis, but it is an issue if you have Karens that act like that. Our next story is by Much Blank. We don't serve dinner, lady. My husband and I went on vacation somewhere in Asia a few years ago. It was the lean season, so the restaurants were mostly empty. We went out for dinner in one such restaurant. When we got our orders, the waiters retreated to the back of the house since there weren't other diners around, and I guess they weren't expecting more. In the middle of dinner, an elderly white couple, husband and wife I assume, entered the restaurant and proceeded to our table. The woman mumbled something to us. I didn't look at her since we didn't have any business with them, plus we were enjoying our dinner. Then she repeated in an irate tone, "Excuse me, can we get some menus?" I just glared at her because I was quite offended. My husband and I are Asian, and she automatically assumed that we were servers even though we were in casual outfits. I was wearing a romper, he was in a t-shirt, we were both in flip-flops, and we were clearly eating. Her husband tried to hold her back, but she snapped back, "They're ignoring me." "I don't think they work here," he said and apologized to us. Luckily, a waiter appeared and led them to a far-away table. We walked past them on our way out. She was still scowling at us as if we were the offenders. The husband was sweet though. He apologized again. Don't you just hate when somebody is so unable to admit that they're wrong that even when they went up to you and got angry at you and you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't even have much of a reaction to them, they're still scowling at you the entire time basically, and when you walk out, they're still giving you a scowl. Like, come on, what did you even do? Just use some rational thought, realize you're wrong, and you don't even have to apologize, just ignore them or something, you know? This next story is by Muskwa35, Old Lady Can't Reach. So this story is from a few years back, so it's basically the best I can remember. So I took my grandma to one of her favorite greenhouses to get flowers and some other gardening supplies. My grandma is in her 70s and sometimes needs to hold on to me if she gets lightheaded because at the time she refused to use her walker. My grandma sees a decorative pot on the top shelf she wanted. The shelf had a sign saying please ask for assistance to get items off the top shelf. So I tell her that I can find her an employee, but they were all busy, so I quickly grab the pot and put it in her cart and we start to walk off. As I'm walking away, I feel a slight tug on my jacket and I see this old lady looking up at me and asked if I could get her one of the decorative pots. I tell her that I'm sorry, but I'm not an employee, but I can ask to get you one. She looks around and says, "I did ask for some help a while ago, but I haven't had any help yet. Would you please just put one in my cart too, please?" I figured, why not, and reached up, grabbed her the pot she wanted, and put it in her cart. The shelf they were on was barely 6 feet high, and I could easily reach up and get anything off it with ease. After, I put it in her cart and she thanks me. Then we hear an angry voice behind us, "Can't you read the sign?" Apparently, an actual employee saw what I did and wasn't happy. She started giving me a talking to about how I can't just do whatever I want and how if I wanted something from the top shelf, I had to tell an employee and wait for them to get the stepladder. The old lady piped up and told the actual employee that she did ask and had been waiting for about 10 minutes, and this helpful young man was willing to help me out and not just ignore her like some of the actual employees did because they were busy. At this point, my grandma was wondering where I had gone to and came back to find me. She told the employee that seniors like them have trouble standing and waiting for long periods, and that young people who are willing to help are a saving grace. After the both of them started defending me, the employee let it go, but she did tell me that if I do something like that again, she would ban me from the greenhouse. I don't even really understand why a 6-foot-high shelf is a mandatory employee assistance only type deal. Then again, the story did just have 2 elderly ladies asking to get a pot off that shelf, so I can kind of see the reality where there was a number of dropped pots, and that's why it led to that mandatory rule, but it doesn't make too much sense to me realistically. This next story is by julesubraun, folding a shirt. A few years ago, I went to the flagship camping and biking gear store in the Pacific Northwest with my husband and son to buy him some expensive paddling equipment he wanted but didn't really need. I'll admit that I was annoyed to be spending money this way. He was about 10 and didn't know the value of money yet, but it was obvious that we were going to do it. Rather than ruin a perfectly good trip to one of my favorite stores, I walked away. I looked at the canoes, at dry bags, and at quick dry clothes I wasn't going to buy because I already had everything I needed. I have this habit of straightening things as I hang around, especially when I'm annoyed. Maybe it's a little obsessive compulsive, or maybe my mom nagged me too much as a kid. Then I noticed an employee following me. I stopped touching the merchandise for a minute and looked at him. "Are you a new employee here?" he asked. It was a big store. "No, sorry, I'm just waiting for my family to finish shopping." I held my hands open in front of me so he could see that there was nothing in them. "No problem," he said, and then he smiled. What a relief. "Do you want a job then?" "A job?" I was confused. "Yeah, you straighten up 3 displays in my store. I could use an employee who does that without thinking about it." And I thought I was in trouble. So kids, there you have it. If you ever wanted to get a job, just go around to your nearest store, just start straightening everything up, acting all prim and proper, putting everything where it belongs, and then, a manager just walks over and offers you a job on the spot. It's that easy, apparently. And our final story of the day is by --0--1. I don't work for Uber, but I drove the Uber. My girlfriend and I were leaving an event in Center City. There was a lot of commotion in the area, so we weren't worried when our pickup time was delayed a bit. When the driver arrived, we had some small talk. He was an older gentleman and his English was limited. He seemed to be having issues with his GPS and the Uber app. He managed to pick up another passenger on the way to our destination, so I didn't think much of it. As we finally managed to make our way out of the hustle and bustle of Center City, we approached our on-ramp. The GPS started ringing off directions. Several different directions. Instead of taking our on-ramp, the driver took a hard right and we went over a bridge into a neighboring state. We asked the other passenger, "Are you headed this way?" They said no. I mentioned to the driver, "Neither of us have destinations in the state. Please turn around." I could tell he halfway understood the situation and he turned back around. We crossed the bridge again and it spits us out back towards Center City. He loops around the block a few times. He seems directionless. I direct him back towards the on-ramp. He complies. As we approach, the GPS rings off several different directions again. This time, I notice there are 2 different voices giving directions. It's too late. We're already back on the bridge going into the neighboring state for the second time. This time I say something. "Sir, are you using 2 GPSs at the same time? It seems like you might have 2 different locations typed into your phone right now." He struggles to reply, but I can tell he's uncertain. He starts to fiddle with the phone. He pulls it off the dashboard mount and starts to press buttons in a flustered and confused way. I could sense he was not technologically literate. The car starts swerving and he's bouncing his focus from the road to the phone back and forth. The other passenger starts to reveal that she's tipsy. She starts to complain and express nervousness about the car's swerving. She feels a little sick. Red and blue lights flash in the rear view. We're being pulled over. The driver tries to explain himself, but the cop is unable to understand. He's being patient, but the driver is so flustered and repetitive that I think everyone was getting a little irritated. We've been in the car for a little over an hour at this point. The cop is trying to give the driver directions and he's not understanding. The drunk passenger is trying to complain to the cop. My girlfriend is looking like she wants to jump off the bridge. I offer to drive. The cop tells me that's a great idea. I drive the Uber back into the city. I drop off the drunk passenger. I drive my girlfriend and I back to our apartment. I hop out of the driver's seat. The driver asks for a tip. Sorry, buddy, but I don't think you're going to get a tip after that crap show. When OP at that point was saying everybody is a little irritated, that would be an understatement for me. Wasting an hour of my time fooling around with some Uber ride? No, thank you. The tip I would give to that driver is to get a better GPS. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stories today, let me know which one was your personal favorite and why in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe and turn notifications on because anything you do helps this channel grow so much more. So no matter what you do, whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day and I'll see you all next time right here.